Subscribe to Mantold for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. My father's funeral ended at 11 a.m. By 11:30, I turned on the old phone he left behind and found out the woman who had slept beside me for 6 years was never who she said she was. My father, George Blake, was a retired cop, tough, principled, silent like stone. He lived alone after my mom passed. We met once a week. He never said more than he needed, but he never missed what mattered. The morning he died, I was fixing an electrical line in the hospital basement. Then came his last call. Just 3 words. His voice cracked, almost a whisper. "Don't trust her." I thought he was confused, maybe losing his mind. But after the funeral, our family lawyer handed me an old wooden box. Inside was a phone and a handwritten note from him. "Watch it. But once you know, don't look back." I turned it on. There was a passcode, my birthday. The screen lit up. Only one video. I hit play. The image was blurry, but the voice clear as day. Rachel, my wife. The same woman who sat beside me this morning at the funeral. She was on the screen, in my father's living room, facing him. But she didn't look like the woman I knew. Gone was the calm, gentle face. Her eyes were sharp, her voice sharper. She clutched her purse tight and spoke like a blade. My father said nothing, didn't fight back, just stared at her, like he was enduring it. When the video ended, I couldn't breathe. Rachel once told me she and my father didn't get along, said he was cold, harsh, told me not to bring my work home, like he used to. I believed her. I always did, until I saw her, threatening the one man I'd never seen afraid of anyone. I had just buried my father, and now I realized I was about to bury my marriage too. My name is Aaron Blake. I'm 38. I work as a maintenance engineer at a major hospital in Oregon. I don't save lives. I don't go to meetings. I don't wear white shirts. I just make sure the power never goes out, especially not during a 3A surgery. That kind of life suits me. Quiet, useful, no spotlight. Rachel, my wife, is the opposite. She teaches elementary school, laughs a lot, gets handmade cards from her students on every holiday. We met at a small bookstore. She was looking for Charlotte's Web for her class. I was browsing the section on residential wiring. She smiled and said hi first. I didn't know how to respond, just nodded. As I left, she slipped a note into my jacket pocket. I think even guys who read tech books need someone to ask, "Are you okay?" Tish. We got married 2 years later. Small wedding, no big party. Just close friends, a few relatives, and my father, George, standing quietly by the wooden door, wearing the old suit Mom had picked out for him. When it came time for him to give his blessing, he didn't read anything, didn't speak long, just placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "If you've made your choice, be kind to it." So I lived that way. Steady, quiet, kind. Rachel once called me the kind of man who holds you up without making a sound. We never had kids. We tried. Doctors said it was 50-50. Rachel took it hard, but she never blamed anyone. She just hugged me from behind and whispered, "As long as I have you, I'll be okay." And I believed her. For 6 years, my father, George, used to be a detective. He retired early after Mom died from cancer. Since then, it's like someone cut the wire to his voice. He saw me every Saturday. Dinner, same time. Never late. Never called ahead. Never brought anyone. Each time, he'd ask just 3 questions. "Work okay? Car giving you trouble? Need anything from me?" We didn't hug. We didn't say "I love you," but I knew. Every time he tapped the side of my car 3 times before walking away. That was his way of saying, "Drive safe." One time, Rachel asked me, "Why don't you ever tell your dad about the good stuff?" I smiled and said, "He doesn't need to hear it. He just needs to know I'm all right." She fell quiet, then said softly, "Every time I see him, I feel like I'm being analyzed, like he's studying a crime scene." I laughed at the time, but now, thinking about the way Dad looked at Rachel that day, maybe it wasn't a joke. After the wedding, we bought a small apartment, 20 minutes from Dad's place. Every Saturday, I'd visit, like clockwork. I'd bring cold cuts, chilled beer, and the bread Rachel made. He never said thanks, but he'd always have the knife out, 2 old glass cups ready. We'd eat in silence. Few words, but enough. Rachel rarely joined me. She said, "You and your dad, You've got your own rhythm. I don't want to interrupt that. I took it as thoughtfulness. Now I'm not so sure. Dad had been an investigator. Didn't like booze. Didn't like praise. Didn't like small talk. The way he looked at people, slow, steady, like he could read your thoughts through your eyes, made folks uneasy. One year, for my birthday, Rachel threw me a small party. I invited Dad. He showed up on time, stood in a corner. Rachel offered him wine. He looked at the glass, then flatly said, "I don't drink things that slow down my mind." She gave a polite smile, but I felt the party chill a bit after that. Later, I asked him, "Do you not like Rachel?" He said only one thing: "Good people don't need to make everything sweet." I thought he was teaching me about life. Now, I think he was trying to tell me something. Rachel was always gentle, always thoughtful. She'd have dinner ready after my night shifts, the kind I liked. She once said, "You're like the hallway light. Nobody notices, but without you, everything goes dark." It warmed me back then, but now, it sounds more like she needed service, not presence. One time, I got off early. Server crash at the hospital. I came home at 3 a.m. Lights were off. Door was locked. Rachel said she'd gone to bed early, exhausted after class. I believed her. But when she opened the door, I noticed her mascara was fresh, a hint of perfume in the air, and on the table, a second wine glass, unwashed. I didn't ask. I'm not the suspicious type. But now, that scene plays in my head like a clip on loop. Dad once told me, some women don't need love. They need safety. I thought he was teaching me how to read a witness. But maybe that was one of the rare times he was just being a father. Rachel and I were like a wall clock, always ticking. No one really watching. But somewhere along the way, the hour hand slipped, and I never noticed. After my father's funeral, I thought I had lost enough for one lifetime. But then his lawyer called. He said, "Mr. George left something personal for you. It has to be handed over directly." It was an old wooden box, unlocked. Inside, a dated cell phone and a small piece of paper. My father's handwriting, firm, sharp, like commands set in stone. Watch it. But once you know, don't go back. I didn't understand. I took it home, plugged it in. The phone powered on slowly, like it was resisting what was about to come. The passcode, my birthday. No contacts, no emails, no social apps. Just one video, a little over 12 minutes. I hit play. The screen shook slightly, clearly filmed from a hidden camera. I recognized the room immediately. My father's living room. And right in the center, sitting across from him, was Rachel. My heart clenched. It wasn't the gentle Rachel I knew. She sat upright, lips pressed tight, eyes unblinking. Dad spoke first, his voice dry and gravelly, like stones scraping pavement. "I've wired you 3 times. Over $20,000 total." I froze. Rachel replied, "No fear, no dodging. And now you're saying you're out." "No. I'm saying it's time you told Aaron. You never trusted me, did you?" "I trust numbers. I've never done anything to hurt Aaron. You used his name to take out a loan." I jumped out of my seat. Every word hit like a whisper straight in my ear, telling me that the things I'd trusted most were cracking. I used to think, if there was anyone in this world I didn't need to doubt, it was Rachel. Now, I could only ask myself, how much of the last 6 years was even real? In the video, my father wasn't angry. He just spoke calmly. "I won't give you any more money. And if you don't tell him, I will." Rachel lowered her gaze, then looked up, voice flat. "You'd destroy your son's marriage over a few numbers. I'm saving him from a life built on lies." At the end, Rachel walked out of frame. Dad stayed behind, silent. The only sound left was my own breathing, heavy, broken. I turned the phone off. My hands were shaking. My chest, heavy. Everything around me started to blur. $20,000. 3 transfers. A loan under my name. She used to wrap her arms around me every night, run her hand gently down my back, and whisper, "I've never needed anyone but you." Now, I don't know if any of it was ever true. That night, Rachel slept soundly beside me. I lay facing the wall. I remembered the day we moved into this apartment. She cried when she saw it had a built-in dishwasher, like it was some tiny miracle. Back then, I felt like I could give her the small things that made her feel safe. Now, I don't know what scares me more, that she lied to me, or that I never really knew the woman sleeping next to me every night. I didn't confront her, didn't get angry. I just stayed quiet. For the next few days, I lived like a machine, showed up to work, came home on time, said exactly what was necessary, nothing more. Rachel didn't notice anything. She still smiled, still cooked, still kissed me goodnight. I started checking the things I had once trusted blindly. Bank records, some small transfers, regular, all sent to a secondary account under the name Laura Mitchell, Rachel's maiden name. Address, AP, Box in Colorado. We've never lived in Colorado. I hired a private investigator. The account belonged to someone real. It was Rachel, just a different version of her. I remembered when I once asked about her family. She brushed my hand aside and said, "I don't want to remember things that made me not want to live." Back then, I thought it was trauma. Now, I'm not sure if it was pain or a well-kept second life. I kept digging. Credit report. A personal loan for $15,000 under my name, taken out last year. I never signed anything, but the signature was mine. I printed a copy, sat down, stared at it. I could feel something inside me snap, without a sound, like a bone that fractures quietly. And from now on, every movement will hurt. That evening, I tested the waters. "Do you still have the school loan papers? You mentioned them once." Rachel looked up, smiled faintly. "I thought you didn't care about paperwork." I replied, "I do now." She fell silent, then softly asked, "You don't trust me anymore?" I looked her in the eyes. "I don't know." Nothing else was said, just the sound of chopsticks hitting porcelain, just her gaze, fixed on me, as if trying to measure how much I already knew. A week later, I took a day off work, went to the bank, asked to see the original loan application. They printed it, my name, my social security number, my signature. The bank rep looked at me and asked, "You don't recognize the signature?" I gave a dry smile. "That's exactly why I'm here." That night, I sat in the car, looked up at our third-floor apartment, the warm yellow light glowing, quiet, peaceful. She was probably folding laundry or making mint tea, like she always does. I remembered the time I had a 102-degree fever. Rachel made tea, changed the towels, sat with me all night, ran her fingers across my forehead and whispered, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Back then, I believed her. It felt like the most beautiful promise I'd ever heard. Now, I don't know if she was there for me or for something else. I walked in. She was folding clothes. Nothing out of place. Too calm. Too quiet. I said, "You once told me, if I ever kept something from you, you wouldn't forgive me." She looked up. I asked, "What about you? Have you ever kept something from me?" Rachel didn't answer. She just stared. Her eyes didn't blink, like she was calculating the distance between us, to see if it was still close enough for honesty. And that was the first time in my life I realized the person in front of me was no longer my wife, no longer the woman I thought I'd grow old with. She was a question I couldn't solve. And I was the man who got it wrong from the very first line, now sitting in front of a page smudged by tears. After that night, Rachel changed. Not in any dramatic way. No fights. No explanations. Just the space between us became visible. A quiet distance, too real to be softened by kind words. She still cooked, still folded laundry, still asked about my shifts. But her eyes, they weren't really here anymore, like someone standing in the kitchen, but their mind was already checking the 4 p.m. departure gate. Tuesday afternoon, I came home early. As I slid the key into the lock, I heard her phone ringing inside. Not her usual ringtone. Something unfamiliar. A private call? Maybe. I stepped in. The apartment was empty. The screen lit up briefly before going dark. No name. Just one message. "Did you get there?" I didn't check it. Didn't need to. Because right after that, I saw a travel bag by the sofa. Rachel walked in, holding a bus ticket. "I'm going to visit Mom for a few days. It's been suffocating." I didn't ask, just nodded. She left for 3 days. And for those 3 days, I lived like no one was watching. And I didn't have to pretend to be a man who was okay. I cleaned the house, searched old drawers, not to find proof, but to see if there was any trace of me left in her life at all. I found an old black notebook, worn at the edges. Inside, scattered notes, names, amounts, dates, One page read, "Send next week, $500. Don't let him find out." Another said, "It's done, but I'm not sure." At the back was a folded paper, a printed message. No sender, just the words, "You can't keep hiding like this. Either you tell your husband, or it all ends here." I read it over and over. Each word cut through my memory like a blade. I didn't know who he was, didn't know what keep meant, didn't know who or what was about to end. But I knew one thing. I wasn't in control anymore. Thursday night, Rachel came home. Walked in like nothing had happened. Jacket folded. Bag in its place. Everything. So normal, it felt unreal. At dinner, I handed her the paper. No introduction. She read it, eyes steady, then handed it back. "Old stuff. It's over now." I said nothing. She continued, "When I was younger, someone threatened me. They had old pictures. I paid to make it stop." I asked, "And now?" "Now. I just want peace. And peace means hiding everything." She didn't answer. Just looked at me. Long. Like she was trying to pick the least painful reason to protect something that hadn't fully broken yet. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer. I didn't file for anything. Not yet. I just asked, if I wanted to protect what I've built, where do I start? He flipped through a file, then looked up, serious. "There are auto deductions from your account, linked to names that aren't yours." I exhaled. It felt like stepping out of surgery. No more pain. But knowing, a part of me was gone for good. I used to think the worst pain was being left. Now I know. The real pain is when the person lying next to you has been gone for a long time. From that day on, I began separating things. Opened a new account, unlinked our cards, changed email passwords, updated car registration to my name. No warning, no blame, just preparing for a future without us. Rachel noticed, but didn't ask. Between us, silence was no longer peace. It was the only way to keep things from breaking right now. I kept living like life hadn't shifted. Still cooked for two. Still left her honey tea every morning. Still hand-washed her green sweater. The one that pills if you machine wash it. Not because I hoped she'd stay, but because I didn't know how to let go of someone who once meant the whole world. One night, I woke to the sound of water. Went to the kitchen. Rachel was standing there, back trembling, hands red from cold water. A glass lay shattered on the floor. Water spreading, catching the light from above. I didn't say a word, just bent down, picked up the glass shards, and wiped the floor. She stepped back, one step, like she was stepping out of my life for good. I looked up and said gently, "If you need to leave, I won't stop you. Just don't stay because you're scared of somewhere else." She bit her lip, then nodded. No tears, no hug, just someone finally stopping after a long, worn-out journey. The next morning, Rachel packed. Not much. Just one small suitcase. Neat. Enough to get by. Like someone heading off on a trip they weren't sure they'd return from. She didn't take the winter slippers I bought. The ones for her cold feet. I didn't mention them. Maybe this year she'll buy a new pair. Somewhere else. With someone else. She left the black notebook on the table. Folded in half. Set down neatly, like she was saying, "I'm not carrying the past with me anymore." I didn't open it. I was afraid those pages were the only real thing left between us. Rachel left on a damp afternoon. No hug, goodbye. No promise to call. She didn't forget anything, except the empty space she left behind in a home that used to echo with her voice. I didn't look out the window. I just sat on the sofa and noticed the spot where she used to sit felt colder than the rest. No more pages turning at night. No faint scent of perfume on the coat behind the door. I opened my phone. The last message from Rachel. "Don't forget the milk. 2 weeks ago, I kept it. Not out of longing, but because it was the last time she needed me, even if just for a carton of milk." That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, remembering something she once whispered under the soft glow of our bedroom light. "If I'm ever not here, just remember, there was a time I chose you." No reason. I just did. I don't know how much of that was true. But tonight, I choose to believe it. Not because she deserves it, but because I want to keep that one beautiful part of me before it disappears with her. After Rachel left, I fell into a quiet pause. No slammed door, no screaming, no clean break, just life moving forward like someone had quietly stepped out of it, and I didn't even get a chance to hold on. I went to work, came home, ate alone, still turned on the bedside lamp at night. A habit I couldn't break, even if no one was coming to bed late anymore. One Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Young, shaky voice. "Hi, is this Aaron Blake? I'm a nurse at the End of Life Care Center in Fort Collins. A woman named Rachel Mitchell passed away last night. She left a letter. Asked us to make sure you got it." I froze. Rachel. She'd only left less than 2 weeks ago. Why end of life? I got on a flight that same afternoon, my head spinning. The facility was tucked away in a quiet suburb, the light dull, like rain that had lingered too long. A nurse handed me an ivory envelope, my name on the front, written in that familiar hand. "To Aaron, if you still want to understand." I opened it. The paper was worn at the corners, but her handwriting? Still straight, still neat. Just like her, precise to the very end. "Aaron, if you're holding this letter, it means I never got to tell you everything. I didn't leave to run away. I left to die, quietly. I was diagnosed with leukemia 8 months ago. Terminal. But I couldn't tell you, because I'd already hidden too many things before that. The debt. The times I used your name. Not because I looked down on you, but because I was scared. Scared that if you knew I was falling apart, you'd leave too. Like others have. About the money. Some of it was for chemo. Some of it I sent to someone. My daughter. I never told you, because I don't deserve to be called her mother. I had her when I was 20. No husband. I left her with her father's family. She doesn't know who I am, but I've always kept an eye on her from afar. All I wanted was for her to grow up kind. That's enough. Aaron, I'm not asking for forgiveness, but if there's one thing I hope, it's that when you remember me, you'll remember I chose you, for no reason, just because I wanted to." I stopped reading. The paper trembled in my hands, like she was still alive somewhere, waiting for me to understand the parts of her story she never found the strength to speak aloud. All the time she looked away from me, I thought it was guilt. Now I know. Maybe she was just trying not to cry. I stayed at the center for nearly 2 hours. Didn't ask questions. Didn't speak to anyone. They asked if I wanted her belongings. Just a small suitcase, a few clothes, an old photo, and a notebook. The same one I had seen before. But this time, it wasn't evidence. It was a map, leading me through the part of her life I had never known. Inside were notes on chemo sessions, doctor names, money sent to her daughter. There was even a page she'd written to herself. I don't need to be forgiven. I just want someone to remember me, not as a liar, but as someone who tried to love the right way. On the flight home, I sat next to a little girl, maybe 10. She was playing on a phone, braided hair, giggling. I don't know why, but something in me felt tight. I remembered one thing Rachel had once whispered, barely audible. "I'm scared to have kids. Scared I won't know how to be a mom." Now I understand. She was scared because she had already left a child behind once and lived the rest of her life carrying that silence. I didn't hold a funeral. Rachel left no will. Only one line in a second letter I read later. "If possible, scatter my ashes somewhere quiet. A place where no one needs to know I existed. But I'll know. Someone brought me home." So I took her ashes to the edge of the forest where we camped in our first year together. It was cold, like it was back then. She'd built a fire so badly, smoke filled the air, and I had to hug her, laughing the whole time. I stood in the woods, still, the sun soft through the trees. I opened the lid and said, "You don't have to be scared anymore. No more goodbyes. No more lies. Nothing left to prove. You loved in the only way you knew how." Her ashes lifted, swirling into the air, like she was becoming something softer than sorrow. I didn't post anything online, didn't tell anyone, just kept a piece of her letter in my wallet, where our wedding photo used to be. I moved forward, lighter, but never forgetting. Some people don't come into your life to stay. They come to teach you this. Even when love is flawed, it can still be real. After I got back from Fort Collins, I started rearranging the apartment. Not moving out, just moving things around. I couldn't look at the chair by the window without seeing Rachel curled up there in the mornings, legs tucked under, reading, coffee steaming in her hand. I sold the dining set, packed away our wedding photo, cut the joint credit card, canceled Netflix. Her name still showed up on the account. I didn't cry, not because I was strong, But because this sadness, it doesn't spill. It runs underground, quiet, deep. Only those who've lived with it know how to carry it. A week later, I found the address of the child Rachel had written about. She was living in Arizona with her father's side, just like Rachel had said. I stood outside the house for almost 30 minutes. Didn't knock, just watched. A small home, a garden, a bike neatly parked, an American flag swaying gently on the porch. Maybe Rachel was right. The girl didn't need to know she'd once been left. She just needed a normal life. And Rachel had protected that, quietly, until her last breath. I left a letter. No name. Inside, a small scholarship check and a note. Your mother cared about you deeply, even from afar. You living well means she's at peace. I don't know if the girl ever read it. Don't know if anyone ever told her the truth. But I believe, sometimes, truth doesn't need to be spoken. It just needs to be lived. I flew back to Denver. The cafe where Rachel and I first met. Still there. The table by the window, where she once misordered a carrot latte instead of a cappuccino. Still there too. I sat down, ordered the same drink, not to remember her, but to remember me, the version of me who believed in love, who believed in goodness. And then I wrote, not about Rachel, but about myself. From the moment I met her, to losing her, to learning how to love, without needing to hold on. It was a short piece. I posted it on an old blog I hadn't touched in years. No likes, no shares. But a few days later, a single comment appeared. Thank you for sharing. Someday, I hope to learn how to let go of someone I once loved too. I sat there for a long time, just looking at that line, not because it was special, but because, for the first time, my story didn't feel like shame. It felt like memory, something that could help someone else not feel so alone. I started having small conversations again, with people who used to ask, "Hey, how are you two doing?" The ones I'd always avoided. This time, I answered honestly. No blame, no cover-up, just the truth, told in a steady voice, like talking about someone who once lived very deep inside you and left in the quietest way. Everyone went silent after hearing it. Then they'd say, "Must be hard to forget." I'd smile and reply, "I don't want to forget, because forgetting means maybe I never loved her enough." One autumn morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Nothing special. I just slept well for the first time in weeks. I took a walk by the lake. Cold wind brushed my face, reminding me of a morning when Rachel threw a jacket over my shoulders and muttered, "What kind of man doesn't know how to dress warm?" I laughed, out loud. Alone, not a stifled laugh, but a laugh of acceptance. Rachel was gone. But the days she was here still lingered, not like a ghost, more like a thin layer of mist. Not enough to cloud my view, but enough to make me breathe slower, live deeper. I still set out a mug of honey tea every night, not because I expect her to come back, but because that small habit was part of a life where someone once existed, and I'm not ready to erase all of it. I still keep the small suitcase the care center sent me, not opened, not hidden, just there, in the corner of the closet, as a quiet reminder. Some people come into your life just to teach you how to survive loss, without losing yourself. One day, I came across a photo online. The girl from Arizona had posted a graduation picture. She didn't know me, but I knew. Rachel would have smiled. I didn't like it, didn't comment, just saved it. In the photo, the girl's smile was wide. She wore a flower lei. Sunlight sliced gently through her hair, just like a morning from my memory, when Rachel once turned to me and asked, "If I disappear, would you miss me?" Now I know. I'll never forget her. Not because she was perfect, but because she was the only one who taught me a lesson no book ever could. Love doesn't always have to be right. It just has to be real. Someone once asked me, if you could go back to the moment you met her, would you still choose to love her? I didn't answer right away, because honestly, there was a time I thought I'd say no. Who would want to relive a journey filled with pain, lies, and an ending marked by an urn of ashes? But the longer I've lived with those memories, the more I've come to understand. Loving someone was never something I got to carefully choose. It came like a season, like a shift in the wind, and some winds, even if they leave dust and scars, stay with you because they once reminded you that you were alive. I didn't become the man who's afraid to love. And I didn't try to be the man who learned a lesson. I just live slower now, more sincerely. And I understand this. If someone leaves, it doesn't mean they never loved you. It just means they loved you in the only way they knew how. And sometimes that way hurts both of you. Today, when I look back, I don't think of Rachel as a mistake to erase. I think of her as a bitter winter that made me truly appreciate the first sunlight of spring. She didn't need to be right. She didn't need to leave anything behind, because she already left. A part of me I haven't found in anyone else. A part that's more patient. When someone falls silent, a part that understands silence can sometimes be a cry for help. And a part that's learned how to love without holding on too tight. There are still nights when I turn on the bedside lamp, brew some tea, and just sit there, not to remember her, but to remind myself there was once someone who mattered enough to change the way I live. She's no longer in my life, but she's still in the way I love. From that moment on, I'm not telling this story to be pitied, not to blame anyone, not to make myself a victim. I'm telling it because I know, out there, someone's carrying the quiet weight of a goodbye no one else saw the full shape of. If you're listening, and you've ever felt like the one left behind, ever felt stupid for loving someone too much, just know, I understand. And I'm still here, still living, with those memories, not erased, not bitter, just held gently, as a reminder. Some loves are not meant to stay, but they're worth being grateful for, because they happened,